The story of the Mahabharata is one of two major epics of ancient India. It is said to have originated in 400 BCE and has been retold millions of times since, going through numerous iterations and transformations as it traveled throughout India and into Eastern Asia. The Mahabharata is considered a cornerstone of Hindu and Indian culture. Welcome to Not Your Mother's Mahabharata.
This is not your mother's Mahabharata. Beware. It's fucking epic. Hosted by S.P. Jairaj.
Welcome everyone to Not Your Mother's Mahabharata. I am your host. Yes, today I am still your host.
Technically.
Technically. Satish Jairaj. I also go by S.P. Jairaj. With me, as always, is my wife, Azure Anderson.
Hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you. Well, see a few of you. And think of the rest of you.
Yeah, we'll post more pictures.
You're in my mind.
We'll post more on our Instagram so they can actually see us, I guess.
Sure.
Is one thing to do.
We are pretty cute.
This has nothing to do with anything, guys.
Okay.
We are really happy and excited today because this will be an episode which I've been trying to figure out for quite a while, where I will not be talking as much. So some of you may be like, "Oh, thank God." But yeah, we have a really special guest today, Shambhu Nath. Hi, Shambhu.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're really happy to have Shambhu here. The reason being is that this will be a very different episode where we will be asking Shambhu questions. Shambhu is much more scholared in the Mahabharata than I am.
Very wise.
It's yep, I have to take my own ego trip to the side where I was like, all right, as far as the Mahabharata is concerned, I'm no longer the smartest person in the room. When we do an episode where I intentionally try and find people who know nothing about it.
Yeah, you're pretty good at that too.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who don't know about it yet, which is why we're doing the podcast.
Exactly.
There's a lot that I do not know about it.
We can tell.
There are a lot of times when I say I don't know. I should have marked all those questions from every episode and we would have done a 4-hour episode with you. But no, I met Shambhu and this is the last time I get to talk to listeners for this episode, so bear with me. We met and I would say it started off and I was a little awkward because we're meeting new people. And then fortunately early in the conversation, I mentioned the Mahabharata and then
we got connected.
We because Shambhu knew just so much more. And so we talked the whole time about that, and I'm really excited to bring that to you. So, Shambhu, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Satish. So I was born in India, and
which part?
North from Delhi. We are 5 hours north in Haryana.
Okay.
City is Yamunanagar, and from early on, I had interest in scriptures. At very early age. I saw my grandpa, my parents, pray to Lord Krishna, and then read Bhagavad Gita, which is part of Mahabharata.
Right, part of the Mahabharata.
And then obviously in India we are raised, with the TV serials Mahabharata. So I got to see that and movie Mahabharata. But I had more than that. I had an interest in scriptures from the point of view of how can I help myself and others by reading the message from it. So we'll ask my grandpa, what is the message what is the moral behind this story? What is the meaning behind it? I'll try to get it together. Fast forward, I came to US in 1992 for my higher studies. And I continued the journey with studying the scriptures. And I got more into Western psychology. I used to deal with anxiety. And my thing was, how can I, improve my anxiety? How can I get my life?
You had anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That how they get it. And I will read these books and I'll read it and nothing will happen. And I'm like, why is the book here?
What is the point of your book?
What's the point of this whole book?
Yeah.
Reading the entire thing and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so the journey continued.
Yeah.
You know, I kept my faith that something is there. And then I read the Bible also. I said maybe Mahabharata, Ramayana don't help. Maybe Bible will help. But nothing happened. My anxiety, symptoms will continue. So I started reading the psychology. It's more about mind.
Yeah.
So when I graduated from Western Michigan University in 92, I got master in paper science. And my friend gave me honorary degree of master in psychology. I read more books in psychology than the paper science. I knew everything about mind, how it works.
Yeah.
But still, I couldn't fix my own mind.
Okay.
Like the anxiety when it triggers, it used to trigger.
Yeah.
And finally, what happened when I moved to Minnesota? It's about 30 years back. I read Paramahansa Yogananda's some sayings. About how our mind works.
And this was, what was his main book called?
I read his book much later.
Yeah.
It's called God Talks with Arjun,
Okay.
where he explains all the symbology behind Mahabharata. And then I could also decipher Ramayana also, if you use the same logic.
Yeah.
And he doesn't talk much about Ramayana,
Okay.
but same logic. But when I saw his explanation of the meanings behind these these main characters in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, but more than that, the teachings of the Indian scriptures, Western scriptures, and how it relates to our own life. And one of that was we had to do meditation, do yoga, use that in our life.
Yeah.
And when I came to Minnesota, I was so much suffering with anxiety. I had to start taking depression medication like Prozac and all that.
Yeah.
And my doctor said that I'll be on Prozac forever.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I started taking. I read.
How was that? I bet that sucked.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And you're
But
like, I'll show you.
No, nothing like that.
Not yet.
I had given up. I like maybe that's how the life is.
Yeah.
But luckily, when I read the interpretation of these scriptures, the books, the message from Paramahansa Yogananda, and I started reading his books, then I started practicing yoga and meditation. I think after 6 months or so, I forgot to take medication,
Okay.
and after that, I didn't take it.
Okay.
I went back to my doctor after maybe 3-4 months. Hey, I'm not taking it. And he said, if nothing is happening, then you're good to go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Wonderful. That's
And,
amazing. Yeah.
so what I really realized was that there was a missing link between our scriptures
Yeah.
and how do we use it in our daily life to deal with, our daily problems. As
Yeah.
simple as, anxiety. Maybe for some people it's big, but, people deal with their life. How do we deal with our life? And the message is already in scriptures.
Right.
Then after that, I said, okay, I should share this information with other people who are dealing with similar things. So I started writing about them, and I published then books. I think first was the Real Lost Symbols of Bible. Like what is the message of? Actually, there's a message of love by Jesus. And how love can heal us. Then I wrote next one is Fear is the Fiction of the Mind.
And these are under your pen name.
My
Sam
pen name
Nath.
Sam
Okay.
Nath. Yeah.
Okay.
And I really realized that I've not written anything on Hinduism. So recently, then I published a book called Manthan Code, 7 Secrets of Emotional Healing, and it is all to share that in the books of Mahabharata and Ramayana and the Bible, there is a message that we can use today to heal our mind, to heal our body,
Yeah.
and to feel the kingdom of God that we were all born with. That we can experience that in our life. So that was my short, the long introduction.
No, that's so. And just to for me, there are certain words that, especially as I was building this, that have just such weight to them. And because we try and keep things light over here,
Sure,
I'm gonna take away the weight to those words. But you mentioned scripture, and when you say scripture, you're just talking the story of the Mahabharata, or something deeper.
So yes, I started with the stories like Ramayana and Mahabharata. These are the historical books. They are considered part of the historical scriptures.
Okay.
But after that, I read even the Vedas.
Okay.
So there is a Vedanta, which are more philosophical. They talk about the Brahm, the Atman, and so later I read them. But eventually I understood that all of them, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Gita, Vedanta, all of them are talking about the same thing, that we all are only one,
Yeah.
and we have forgotten our true identity, who we are. And because we've forgotten our true nature,
Yeah.
we are in suffering for some reason, which says I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And the scriptures, the stories, everything is written to tell us again that, hey, who you are is child of God, and how do you get back to it is what is told in those stories.
Yeah. There's so many threads. There's so many
I know.
threads to go. And I do life coaching. I intentionally call my company Imagination Life Coaching. And so the way that ties into stories, and I'm discovering and doing more things with myself and then with clients about turning the stories into tools to use as ways to just as ways to better ourselves. There's a lot of ideas as well, you're talking about your journey there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and then there's a movie I've watched called Heal, and it's fascinating how so many ailments come down to this idea that can be healed and from a psychological perspective.
Yes.
And not just because I know there's been science about the placebo effect, and that is the very powerful thing, but even beyond that, where certain emotional wounds show up in the body in certain ways. So everything you said is this is why I'm really proud to be a novice in this and doing what we can to spread the story of the Mahabharata.
Certainly.
Because essentially the Mahabharata is what? As far as for the inner, I'll give you you talked about an inner battle. So for you, what the Mahabharata is what in that sense?
So Mahabharata, is, if you really look at it purely from the scripture, from the title and the story, it's the biggest war that was ever fought in India. So it's called Mahabharata, the biggest battle. But the writers, Vyas, when he wrote this scripture, he was not concerned about the history part of it, the fight between Pandavas and Kauravas. He was not worried about that to explain the exact facts. History was not his concern. He was not a historian. He basically saw that there is a war going on within us, the war between good and bad, the war which says that, hey, I am divine, or I am part of kingdom of God, and I know something divine is within me.
Yeah.
And there is a part within us which says, hey, no, I'm not that. Who I am is the world, the way it looks. And it wants to keep us attached to the world that we see, the one we experience. And there's a war going on. One is to experience our true nature, we being as a divine. And another one is which says the world the way it is true. And I just want to enjoy the pleasures, the attachment that we get to the world itself. And Vyas saw that battle and he realized his true nature.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, let me tell you, by writing the biggest, I think one of the biggest epic,
Yeah.
right, Mahabharata,
Yeah.
to tell you that the story, that fight that is going on in our life, let me tell you through these, these characters, that how this fight is going on.
Yeah.
And then in between, he brings Krishna as that divine wisdom, so that we all have that path to realize our true nature.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not about, realizing our true nature after we die and we find something good after that. No. He said right here, right now, you can experience a part of you which says who you are is already happy, joyful. And part of you says, hey, no, everything is wrong. Something is wrong with me. And he said, no, there is a fight going on.
Yeah.
And how do you fight it that the good part, that who you are is a powerful being, comes out.
Yeah.
And the other ones which says, no, you are not good enough, becomes weaker and weaker. And that's what, to me, what really gave the Mahabharata significance is that it's about my story. I can fight my depression, my anxiety, through the Mahabharata, the message of Mahabharata.
Yeah.
Sure.
Instead of reading it as a story, and then hoping one day when I die, I will find them,
Yeah.
real application in our real life.
Right.
In the here and now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right here, right now. Yeah.
Hi, listeners. If you are enjoying the Not Your Mother's Mahabharata podcast, we invite you to visit our website, spjayaraj.com, where you can see the other projects we've got going on. If you're a fan of mythic and magical filled stories, you can check out my fantasy books and explore the magical world of Adajari, where my stories take place. You can read up on Imagination Life Coaching to see how I help creatives, individuals, and teams expand and apply their imagination towards living happier and more fulfilling lives. You can also look up my related self-help books that are inspired by global myths. If you live in the Twin Cities Metro and want to see me tell stories live, you can look up the calendar to see my upcoming shows. Or, if you are interested in bringing some storytelling and imagination directly to your community, there is the option to start that conversation on the website as well. And of course, you can check out all our episodes of the Not Your Mother's Mahabharata podcast. You can find all of this and more at spjayaraj.com. That is spjayaraj.com. All right, back to the show. Do you know the little names to some of these? To the characters?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. So this
Yeah,
is where
I know all of their names.
Oh, fantastic.
And
what about the what about the Kauravas? The 100 Kauravas.
Kauravas? Yeah.
You know the 100 names of the Kauravas? Like what they mean?
I don't know 100 names, but I know what 100 signifies, right? So 100
Okay.
means lot.
Okay.
And the Pandavas are only 5. They are
Yeah.
very limited, right? So in our war with when we are fighting in our life, we have one side. The good side doesn't have to have hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Even 5 are enough to fight 100.
Okay. Yeah.
And those 100 are our body sensations. So our senses, right?
Yeah.
So all these Kauravas are representing our body sensation, which is feeding us the constant feedback to our mind.
Yeah.
And it's, and nothing wrong with it. It's the way we are designed, that we experience the world through our senses.
Yeah.
But in that part, we miss our true nature, which is we are divine. Because our senses are not designed to experience the divine. They are only experienced to survive the world. And because we are in survival, in the game of being human,
Yeah.
is that we are in survival. And because we are in survival, senses are designed to protect us. It tries to protect who he thinks it is.
Okay.
And in the Mahabharata, it's a Bhishma that needs to be protected. Right? In the entire Mahabharata, if you
He's the
read
one
it.
who wants to protect the entire bloodline.
Bloodline, because Bhishma is that ego which says I am separate from the whole. So when Bhishma is born, that's after the creation starts. Maybe we will take a pause before we go further.
Okay.
Maybe we go back to the initial when the Bhishma was born.
Yeah.
And see how that caused the entire Mahabharata as a story of our life.
Okay. First question: what does Vyasa mean? Do you know what Vyasa means?
Vyasa, he's a writer.
It just means writer. Okay.
Yeah, but he's a writer of the scripture.
Yeah.
But here in the symbology, he's a divine discrimination. When you can discriminate between good and bad, you can see the way the life is. That is represented by Vyas. So mostly, so if you go but the other side, right, which is Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, our sense, Pandavas, Dronacharya, all of them are representing the outside world.
Okay.
The way the things are, the way they represent to us. And then Vyas is the one where we can see that who I am is not just that, but I'm also the other side, which is my divine nature, which is represented by our intelligence, the Pandu, our power for Vairagya, like non-attachment, and our power to stick to the non-attachment itself, right? Kunti and Madri. So Vyas is the one who sees both sides.
Okay.
So he writes, when he's writing, he's writing for both, like Pandavas and Kauravas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We basically have to go back to the beginning. The way we say is, our Vedantas talk about that in the beginning there's nothing. and then it's nothing is also everything. Like it became aware of itself,
Yeah.
and it says, "Hey, I exist," but there was no creation. So as soon as you become aware of yourself, the who I am, but it is also everything and nothing, is represented by Shantanu. So Shantanu is the father, and he says it exists, but there is no creation yet.
Yeah.
Then Ganga is representing the consciousness, the Chetana. So when father and Ganga they meet, then when Shantanu wants to marry Ganga, right?
Yeah.
And Ganga asks him that if I say something, if I do something, don't challenge me, right? If you challenge me, then I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like other wives, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't challenge me.
And also, very realistic. Yeah. Right for the modern times.
Right, just
That's where
like
we all
that.
And
got
also,
it. We all
like-
got it from that. So.
And also, she says that she won't tell him her name. That was also part of the story,
That-
right?
that was part of the
And
story,
he ends
too.
up calling her, what is her name?
Ganga.
Yeah.
We call her Ganga. But what happens is then they have their first child, and Ganga takes it to Ganges and
Yeah.
drowns it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it happened 7 times.
Seven
Again
times.
and
Seven
again
times.
And again
Yeah.
and again.
Again
Yep.
and again it keeps happening. And then 8th time, Shantanu says, why are you doing this? And then Ganga gives Bhishma to the child and says, okay, now I'm going back.
Yeah.
Right? And by the way, I wrote this in my book also in Manthan Code, this symbology. And some of the comments I got was that, oh, this is very distressing. Although it's a scripture, why are they drowning kids?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, the way the story is, it is the way it is, so you cannot change the story.
Yeah.
But in symbolic meaning is that in the beginning, when there's a creation is happening, but it's going back to it.
Yeah.
So what the Vedanta are saying that this nothing and everything, when it became aware of itself, it tries to create the universe, but it creates and goes back to it.
Okay.
It creates and goes back to it.
Okay.
So consciousness is creating something called child of Ganga, and then they're going back to Ganga itself, right? Because
Yeah.
she's drowning them in Ganga.
Yeah.
So that means they both are the same, one and the same. The physical Ganga didn't exist that time because there is no creation, right? So Ganga is going back to Ganga is basically something appears and disappears. So it keeps happening.
Yeah. Kind of
Then-
like gestation almost.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
creation is happening and then going back to it.
Yeah.
So in the 7th time, when nothing is happening, then God's, whatever the creation is, it asks, why are you doing it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
8th time, yeah.
So whenever you get a question, then the Bhishma is born. Bhishma is an ego, an identity,
Yeah.
which says I am separate from the whole. And but symbolically, what it means is that for creation to exist, identity has to exist. Because when identity disappears, when you and me are the same,
Yeah.
then nothing is there. So when you and me and you are different, then the creation exists. Because
there's
now we can
individual-
talk.
Okay.
When there's individuality and
No, you and I can talk, and you
Yeah.
and I can talk,
Yeah.
right? But if we three are same, and let's
Yeah.
imagine the entire universe is 3 of us,
Yeah.
and we three are the same,
Yeah.
then there's nothing to talk about.
We'll just stare at each other all day long for eternity.
Yeah, because we know
we know everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we know everything.
Yeah.
I think you got it. That's what the Mahabharata is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says that the creation is just eternity itself, and there's no creation itself because it knows everything.
Yeah.
So the game is that you and I have to create something. We have to forget who we are. Is that eternity? So we create Bhishma.
What is Bhishma's first name? Because he doesn't become Bhishma technically till later, right?
Yeah. They called him. What was his name?
Devavrata.
Devarth.
Oh, you
never-
mentioned
yeah.
that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Okay.
a Devarth because of his pledge to not marry. For
Yeah.
his entire life.
Yes.
Then he's renamed.
Then they call him Bhishma, means taking a pledge which is very strong.
Okay.
So that was that pledge was like something he gave up, right? His entire life to serve his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why he's called Bhishma, and we forget his Devarth as his
Yeah.
name.
Do you know what that happens to mean, Devat?
Devarth is one who's following the divine. Deva is the Dev,
Okay.
Yeah.
like a divine.
Yeah.
And then Varth is the one like we do fast. Somebody who follows
Okay.
Devarth. So it's a divine nature.
Okay.
But now he takes a pledge.
He takes the
they
pledge.
call him Bhishma.
Yeah.
But in the story of Mahabharata, it's an ego, like a universal ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just we're covering a lot, so
Sure,
just to for listeners here who
It's
haven't...
very exciting.
Yeah, who haven't listened to all of our episodes 10 times in a row. So basically, Devavat's father, Shantanu, wants to find someone else he wants to remarry, but then the term for that is that the children from that union must take over the kingdom. That's the only way that her father would allow it. And so originally Shantanu says no. The one who will become Bhishma goes and finds out, and he gives up his right to the throne. He gives up having a child. Even and because and even adoption is such a big part of the story, he gives up even having a wife, and he gives up ever rearing his own children.
Yeah.
And that's when he's called Bhishma, and that's, I guess, when the separation happens that you're talking about.
That's where the separation is there. So now you need the other part, which is Satyavati, the other wife, which is the nature.
Okay.
So for creation, the Ganga is consciousness, but the consciousness itself is aware, but it cannot create yet. It still exists as a awareness, but not a physical manifestation. So for physical manifestation to happen, we need nature. So in Mahabharata, Satyavati is the one who's having all these children, and then all the Pandavas and Kauravas. So what it means is that nature is the one creating it, right? Not the Ganga.
Okay.
Ganga only has Bhishma as one child. So Bhishma is still a universal ego.
Oh.
But his universal ego is not like you and I feeling ourselves separate. Universal ego says, I am separate from that eternity. Like that eternal Brahm we call it. That I'm separate.
Okay.
That is the Bhishma is. That has to exist for nature to come into being. And as soon as we start creating, the Brahm starts creating the nature.
Yeah.
Now because there's a ego, now things can stay the way they are, and it doesn't go back, because now you and I became separate, and we came into a game of called survival. So survival is not just that we have to struggle to live. Survival is a basic nature of delusion, where we have to forget who we are the child of God, or who we were the creator to begin with. We divided ourselves to become you and me, and to forget that game is the game of survival. So now because you and I want to survive, now we need senses, we need Kauravas, we need Bhishma, we need ego, we need Dronacharya, we need all this big army attachments to the world for it to survive. Because as soon as the attachment to the world goes away, we become again the same, one with the divine.
Okay.
So the Mahabharata will take us to that battle, that how do we go back to our true nature, which is to be one with the divine, or son of child, son of God, they call it in the Bible. It's that nature, you can only get it when we give up the attachment to the world. And for that, we have to fight that war, basically.
So, spoiler, listeners, there's going to be a great war that happens 60 episodes in, and that's what the whole Mahabharata is about.
That's what the title means.
Yeah.
So, if you Googled the title and translating it, then it's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
I thought they are not allowed to Google, though, are they?
Guess, listeners, I can't Google, but listeners can do whatever they darn well please.
Got it.
And then come and spoil it.
They're gonna. Please don't send me emails and spoil this. I've been very good.
The vow that he takes. Not the vow that he takes, the blessing that he receives. Because Bhishma receives that blessing that he will only die when he is ready to die.
And when he wants to die.
Yeah, when he wants to die. And this is a bit of a spoiler going, again, many episodes later, but I feel like we should talk a little about it. But yeah, but that is interesting to me. So what is that about?
Yeah, so you will see that in our life, our identity never dies. So we might, make a lot of money, and we may lose all of it. We may be healthy, we may not be healthy, but identity stays, right? So what it really means is that our identity is going to stay, but only when it's ready to say that, hey, I had enough, right? This is not worth the fight. And he says, okay, I can give up to the higher nature of me, which it has forgotten its nature, right? As being one with the Father, right? Let's call it eternity.
Yeah.
Because that's how it came up to you, right?
Yeah, sure.
So because I forgot to be eternal,
Yeah.
I have to survive, right? As me, as a identity.
Yeah.
So it identity never dies.
Okay.
Even though I may be powerful, I may not be powerful, but it still wants to live.
Yeah.
But one day he says, hey, I had enough. I don't want to go through this dying and living and go through all this suffering.
Yeah.
When it's ready to go, that time it realizes its true nature. Oh, who I was is already eternal. So it really never dies in a sense,
So are we talking about death necessarily when we give up that identity?
Yeah. So we die as a not as a eternal being, but the one we thought we are, but we are not.
Okay.
Like who you are at this point is your made up identity, right?
Yeah.
Your name somebody gave you, your body accumulated with time, who your title, whichever we identify ourselves, is all given to us by outside world, right? But one part of you is constant, which says, hey, who I am is Satish.
Yeah.
No matter what your name is, how your body is, and that awareness, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Till it wants to say, okay, it's time to know, go. I just don't want to exist as is. And then it becomes one with the eternity.
Okay.
And that's what in our scriptures is called nirvana.
Okay.
Nirvana is basically you become one with the eternal. You and eternal become the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were the
So
same
then
to
you're no
begin
longer
with.
you.
You are no longer you.
Yeah.
So your personality, everything's gone. It's just all up. It's all in the.
Yeah. You
It's
and
all mixed up together again.
yeah, you and that eternity is actually the same. We have illusion called survival,
Yeah.
and in India we call it Maya.
Yeah.
Maya's job is to tell us, hey, you are not the same. Because without that, you and I will not fight. We will not try to live in the world. We will go back to that,
Yeah.
our true nature.
Go back to the quiet, silent,
quiet-
sad
yeah.
room.
Well, like,
Yeah,
Just sit in the dark
in the dark. Yeah.
quietly.
can
Oh
that
no, is that eternity?
can that be achieved before death?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly.
I just want to make it clear that we're not just talking about death here.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the physical death.
Yeah.
It's the identity where it knows that who I am is the divine, and everything else is the identity.
Okay.
So mostly we don't think ourselves as identity, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
think ourselves as ourselves,
Yeah.
and what the Mahabharata, the practices we have in Vedanta, is to meditate and see that all of those things we think we are is not us. Those are just the identities, labels given to us by outside world.
Yeah.
And to get in touch with
With
what
your
is
true
us,
nature.
with who we are.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So by negating everything
Yeah.
that you are not, that you have taken as identity, is what shows up is that your true nature,
Okay.
and that's what is the nirvana we call it.
Yeah. I've seen like some I've seen like videos by Sadhguru and some other people, some other self-help people, where they talk about how some people can be trapped by their memories. And how it helped, like, and so like this encouragement but this encouragement to intentionally forget some of our old stories. That's what's kind of coming to my mind now, like, because we can be trapped in them. Like, let's say it's
haunted by past
even if like
events or...
to really simplify, but if there's like one resentment you have against a certain person, but then just to meditate and to forget that resentment.
Yeah, and I will say maybe a little different, that even if you cannot forget,
Yeah.
just knowing that it's just a memory,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And call memory as a memory.
Yeah.
It's not happening now,
Right.
right? In this time, at this point, we three are talking.
Yeah.
All of our memories are memories. They're there.
Yeah.
But they are not happening.
And they're not affecting our
are not
conversation
affecting-
right now.
not at
Maybe
this moment.
not at this moment. They might.
They will
A
when
memory
we-
may get triggered,
when
and then it would affect
Then
our
it'll affect
conversation.
us, yeah.
But in the long run, it's more buried.
Yeah.
And just in ourselves.
in ourselves.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what we say in yogic practices is that if we can see them as memory, that it's not happening now,
Yeah.
and what's reality is only this moment,
Right. The present
right?
moment. Yeah.
This moment and the next moment, and then this moment is gone,
Yeah.
and as soon as this moment is gone, it'll never come back. Nowhere in the next moment.
Yeah.
We might have a memory of this moment, even recording of this moment,
Yeah.
but it doesn't exist anymore. And when we can realize that as an experience, that everything in the past that happened is already gone,
Yeah.
now the memory doesn't bother you.
Right.
So you may still know it, that it
Yeah.
happened, but it loses the grip on you.
Yeah.
Because
Loses
it's
its
not
power
happening
on you.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that better than just straight up death.
Exactly.
That I can work with in some ways. So yeah. Hi, listeners. Our special guest today is Shambhu Nath. Shambhu is the author of The Manthan Code, 7 Secrets to Emotional Healing. The Manthan Code invites you to embark on a transformative odyssey that merges ancient Hindu wisdom with the science of yoga. It is a profound exploration of Hindu symbolism. More than just a work of fiction, it is a roadmap to healing and a guide to unlocking the secrets of profound inner transformation. You can find digital and hard copies of The Manthan Code, 7 Secrets to Emotional Healing by Shambhu Nath on Amazon.com. All right, back to the show. Just because we're talking about like present moment and stuff, the idea of action. The idea of like to take a present action, and perhaps two characters to chat about Arjuna and Karna in this way. The two greatest archers. I have so many other questions. I have a favorite character I want to talk about too.
I think we can start with Arjun.
Let's start with Arjun. Let's start with Arjun and Karna. It's Ekalavya who I'm very attached to.
And they are two of my favorite ones too. So Arjun is nothing but action. Arjun is action. But Arjun is fighting from the divine side.
Okay.
So when we take action, knowing what our purpose is, who we are as our true nature, and take action aligned with that purpose, is Arjun. Okay. Now, Karan is attachment to action. Okay, so he's still, very active.
Yeah.
Probably as good and maybe better warrior than Arjun. But Karna is showing our attachment. So in this case, we don't have freedom to act. We do things that we have to do because I'm a friend of Dronacharya, Duryodhan.
Yeah.
So now Karan has to fight a war on the side of Duryodhan, even though he knows that he's on the wrong side, Duryodhan is.
Yeah.
But because he's his friend, he has to fight.
Yeah.
So when our actions are governed by our attachment to the world, like I'm a Republican, I have to vote Republican, right? That's attachment.
Yeah.
But when I say I'm gonna do my action based on my alignment with my value, that's Arjun.
That's Arjun. Okay.
Yeah. So both are action, but one is free to act, free to be.
Yeah.
And another one is governed by, hey, I'm not good enough. Now something is driving me to take action, and I'm just taking action in order to. And one is I'm free to be free to
tied
act.
to tied to something.
Tied to something that is a false identity.
Yeah.
And we're attached to it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the moment we can dive deep into politics.
Easily.
As far as Karna, and I've heard other conversations about this, like that toxic masculinity relationship that Karna has with Duryodhan. But of course, the interesting thing, that nobody knows until much later, that Karna is the oldest Pandava as well. So, I don't know if that kind of comes into the illusion that he's under as well.
So, within us also, what happens is, we do get powers. But when we are not realized yet, because Kunti, when Karna is born, Kunti is not married to Pandu yet, right?
Yeah.
So, Pandu is representing our intelligence.
Okay.
And then the other side, Dhritarashtra is a blind, represents our mind. So our mind cannot see it, but it is married to Gandhari, and Gandhari is representing our desires. And desires can be good and bad, but once it marries to the king, and because king is blind, she also blindfolds herself. Right?
Yeah.
So when our desires are also governed by our mind, when both are blind, now we cannot see good and bad. Now we go with the attachments. And then hundreds and hundreds of desires are born. Our body sensations are basically running the show. That is, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari and Kauravas, right?
Yeah, the 100 Kauravas.
Yeah.
100 Kauravas, right?
Yeah.
On the other side, if you see Pandu is intelligence. Intelligence says, hey, I know what is good, what is bad. But when Karan is born, right? She's saying, oh, let me try this mantra I got. Does it really work or not, right?
Yeah.
So she got the power, but she is not married to intelligence yet. She's not. So we have not got our intelligence.
Okay.
So Karan is born, right?
Yeah.
So we get a power where we are not using our intelligence.
Yeah.
So in that case, we might get attached to again Duryodhan, right? So
Because there's nothing.
nothing
It
is
had to attach to something.
yeah, exactly, because we are born in an attachment world.
Yeah.
Something will attach us. So I got power, but I am not attached to my wisdom yet.
Yeah.
So what is happening is the world is pulling me again,
Yeah.
and now I'm doing those things. So that's why Karan has to be born before she is attached to Pandu.
Yeah.
Because it's showing that hey, power without wisdom is as bad because you don't know, what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
So that's what the Karna is, yeah, and that's why he's born before she gets married.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what.
Yeah, everything that happens there in the Mahabharata, by the way, every action is somehow connected to our psychology.
Right. Yeah. That's what's.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's
finding.
the adolescent mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
you get all your power, but you don't have you're not fully engaged until you're
Yeah.
like 25.
Guys.
You're not grounded yet.
Yeah,
This-
you're not grounded yet. You
yeah.
don't have your full intelligence yet.
Okay. Listen.
But yet,
This is the story of Peter Parker.
it
This is the story of Spider-Man. He gets his powers as a teen.
Yeah.
And he's got his desires, and he
They're
just
too
goes
great.
out and he shows off a little bit, and he lets people go, and he's fighting wrestlers.
And his girlfriend
Um,
dies.
Uncle dies.
His uncle dies.
His
but
uncle
she
dies,
eventually.
Okay.
and then it's the power and responsibility stuff,
It's the
and
power and responsibility.
he realizes he needs to align himself to good, to
Just
do
something greater cause.
something greater
yeah.
cause. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Somebody who wrote that read this story. Absolutely.
Stanley read the Mahabharata.
I bet he did. I don't know if there's evidence, but I'm going to believe.
You're gonna.
That he did.
yes,
It
you
is.
certainly can.
Yeah, yeah. We can easily bring superheroes into every aspect of this
Oh, for
too.
sure.
Well, I mean, without going deep into this, like for me, superheroes are like the new mythology in many ways. The new
Yeah.
American mythology as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ekalavya. I've always so Ekalavya, listeners, is the character who he just seemed to have a natural talent for bow and arrows. He was a nishada.
Oh, yeah.
Arjuna, when he's young, like they kind of happen upon him and they realize that this kid is more skilled than Arjuna.
Is that the one that shot all the arrows into the dog's mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Look
Drona.
at me.
She edits all these. So every episode we do, she's heard
Pat
like 3-4
myself on the
times.
back.
Yeah. I'm glad you remember him. But yeah, and then of course Dronacharya, I love Ekalavya for how he learned, like the fact that he makes a mud statue of Dronacharya and learns from that, and as from someone who's like has a company called Imagination Life Coaching, I love that that's something that he does. But then of course Dronacharya asks him to give him his Guru Dakshina, which is owed to him, he says, and cuts off his thumb. And to be honest, I fucking hated Dronacharya at that point. So, yeah, what is your take on, like, what do you know about Ekalavya?
Yeah, so in Mahabharata, there are episodes, there are things happening which don't feel just in many ways, right? Especially if you look from the prism of not knowing what's behind the scene, what is the symbolic meaning.
Yeah.
Then some things feel like, oh, why Karan has to suffer in the entire Mahabharata, right? He is always suffering from day one, right? Without his own fault. Unless you know that Karan is representing attachment. So Vyasa has no choice but show Karan as suffering, because we in our life also, if we have attachment to action without wisdom, we will suffer too. So he's not playing any favors for Arjun and Karan. He just want to show the way the life is. So we can say, hey, if I live my life like Karan and I'm attached to the world, I will do big things like Karan did. But I will have a suffering because I'm attached to Duryodhan, the desires, Vengorous desires, mind, blind thing, instead of a divine power. Similarly, Eklavya is also like Drona. Drona in the entire Mahabharata is a teacher of both sides, Pandus and Kauravas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not teaching one thing or the other. It's our ability to learn from our sanskar, we call it, like a frozen ability to learn from our deepened ingrained habits. So it's not a habit, it's more ingrained than that, which becomes automatic. Like, let's call it autonomous habits,
Yeah.
Those are Dronacharya. Drona means frozen.
Drona means frozen.
Drona is frozen. Acharya is a teacher, right?
Okay.
So in our mind, some things are frozen, like they happen automatically.
Yeah.
I thought Drona meant pot.
Drona also means pot.
Okay.
And it also means frozen.
Interesting.
In Sanskrit.
Okay.
So when something is frozen within us,
Yeah.
like we have a nature which is automatic, like habits fighting automatically, right? So both good habits on the Pandu side and not so good habits on the Kaurava side
Okay.
are being taught by the same mind, same teacher, same power that we have to learn.
Yeah.
Everybody is accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Now, Eklavya is also within us, which has the power to learn, right? So it's again saying, oh, I'm using the image of Eklavya, image of Dronacharya, meaning I'm still using the same power that we all can learn, but he's still not aligned with the divine nature. So what they are saying is that no matter how much power we get, and we can use our mind and intelligence to do a lot of things, but if they are not aligned with our divine nature, then the end is always going to be that we will suffer in the long run. So what Dronacharya is doing here is taking some power out from us, and it's not Eklavya is any different from Arjun and Karan.
Yeah.
They all three are within us. Our power to do action, right? So Arjun is aligned,
Yeah.
so he's a winner in the end. Karan is attached, and Eklavya doesn't have a teacher, so he still not have a wisdom yet. So in Karan, what happened is Kunti was not married to Pandu yet,
Yeah.
so there was no intelligence, and now Eklavya doesn't have a teacher yet, so he also doesn't have the wisdom.
Okay.
So whenever our actions are without wisdom
Yeah.
and without intelligence, we are going to suffer, whether it's Karan or whether it's Eklavya. So in the entire scripture, Arjun has to win, because in our life, when we take action aligned with our divine nature,
Yeah.
then things start falling in place. Even Krishna shows up to guide us.
Yeah.
Something divine within us shows up to direct our path and lead us towards
Yeah.
the happiness. And if we are not governed by Krishna
Yeah.
and advised by Krishna, then the attachment to the outside things, the world things, will really take over, right?
Yeah.
And then it will give us temporary happiness.
Yeah.
Like I can go to, I can drink alcohol, I may get high for a while, but again it goes back to the, same place, right? Or maybe even lower, right?
Yeah.
So that's the entire wisdom from Karan, Eklavya, and Arjun.
Is there significance of the of him being in Nishada, and Nishada, for listeners, are, by my understanding within the story, are that people who live in the forest.
It's not from the point of people living in the tribe,
Okay.
but it's mainly within us the powers which are not governed by our value systems.
Okay.
And the value system is not about good and bad, it's more about, do you know what your true nature is? Let's say who you are actually came from, the top Ganges, like who you are is that eternity.
Yeah.
And anything else that is there, it looks good, but it's all going to be a short-term pleasure but long-term pain, because you don't know what your true nature is. And what Vyas is writing through all these stories is trying to pull us back to our divine nature, that who you are is divine.
Yeah.
And if you forget that, like in my case, when I forgot that, no, I'm taking Prozac, I'm taking all medication, I'm in anxiety, I'm having all these fear,
Yeah.
because I forgot who I am. But if I can remember who I am, then I can do the same things,
Yeah.
exactly the same thing, but no, there is no suffering, because I know who I am as my true nature is the divine. So that is a Vyas is writing many same message will repeat it through many characters in the scripture, because one time I can say, hey, you are divine, and it goes away. Then I tell you again and again and again and again. I keep repeating it.
Yeah.
And hopefully one time it goes into subconscious mind where it says, oh, who I am is divine. And the outside world still takes it out. But no, you have some way you can start anchoring to and find your true nature.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm loving all of this. I also think that we're going to lose a lot of listeners because they're just going to go read the Mahabharata now, and they won't need us anymore.
I know. It's true. It's true.
It was like, oh, why are we holding back? We're just going to go read. Like, apparently this book is
because
10 times more than Satish said.
I know.
No, because Mahabharata shows you that, right?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have to keep repeating the stories,
Yeah.
because our mind, some of the way it's designed, it doesn't listen the part in first time, right? You keep listening, keep repeating the same story again and again and again.
Yeah.
And one time it gets this thing click. It says, "Oh, who I am is really this is my true nature."
Yeah.
But Vyas had to write such a big epic because he knew that he could have told in one line, "Hey, who you are is divine. You are children of God," and the story is over. Right?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you, done.
Yeah.
All right.
But the Maya, we call it, right? The illusion is such a strong that
Yeah.
it has to do nothing. Next day you get up and everything is back to the same. You're like, oh, I still have to deal with my bills. I have to deal with my this thing. I have to deal with my job and my boss and my wife and everything is there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the attachment is so natural.
Yeah.
Being divine takes effort.
Yeah.
And that is why he repeated this message
Yeah.
thousands and thousands, sometimes millions of times. Because one time you will realize who I am is really that, and this is just an illusion.
I like another, like, just from the stuff that I've been looking and studying, the way, like, one is, like, I think we are storytelling beings, and, like, stories are, like, beautiful, and I feel like we've gotten your answer, but you can feel free to answer, like, the question I always ask, which is, what do you love about stories? But I've done, like, some other things where, like, just for memory, and the way, like, if there's something you keep forgetting, if you can find a ways, one, to, like, bring story into it, but to make it, like, even bigger. And, like, the thing, like, if you're forgetting someone's name all the time, and it's like, God, I can't remember the name anytime. If you learn more about that person, if you learn more about their just personal story, and, like, make that pinprick in your mind bigger, because there's just more to latch onto, then you remember that more.
Right.
And I think the fact that this, and of course the fact that this is all one epic, and it's all tied together, and it is so large. I think all of that as well, like the threads between the different, almost infinite pieces of wisdom between them.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
The fact that it's a story, and then also that it is so big, and that I think is what helps, to kind of, to latch onto it as a tool.
I'll totally agree with that the stories really are powerful. Because I remember reading this story in my childhood, that Dronacharya, gives a lesson, a story to, his students, Pandavas and Kauravas, and tells them, hey, the moral of the story is, don't be angry. Right? And then the next day he asks everybody, can you repeat the story? And then everybody is able to tell the story, except Yudhishthira.
Okay.
The eldest Pandava.
Yeah.
He says, teacher, or sir, I don't remember the story yet, and it kept happening day after day after day after that.
Just with Yudhishthira.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody else, was done, and then Dronacharya got angry, and he said, "You are gonna be king one day. You can remember a very short story." And he says, "Teacher, I can remember the story, but you said the moral is don't be angry." And I don't know how not to be angry because I'm still practicing that.
Yeah.
Then Dronacharya said, you are the true one who really understood the story. Because it's not just a story. Story was just to remind you to be not angry.
And to use it.
You are really using it
Yeah.
to be, you're practicing not to be angry. And you know that you are still getting angry. So you are the true one. So for my short story also, he conveyed a message that, hey, if you want to learn something, then you have to practice it. Keep practicing it. Keep practicing it.
Ashwatthama has a very significant place in the story much later on. I know. One, I'm curious what Ashwatthama means. And then what, the whole Drona, his actual son Ashwatthama, and then Arjuna. There's the story where Drona's he's teaching all of them, and he's teaching Ashwatthama as well. And it's go fill your water, fill your pot with water, come back, and the first one who fills your bucket, I'll start teaching first. But he gives Ashwatthama a bigger one, so that slyly, he's like, well, I can't publicly be favoring my son, but that's how he kind of does that. But then Arjuna, of course, has the magic arrow, that he just shoots water into the bucket. But I'm curious about what is that?
So, yeah, as you said, right, that in the war it will come later on. So, for now, we can maybe mention this much that we already talked about Dronacharya being a teacher.
Yeah.
And it's basically our frozen automatic nature of habits that become so automatic for us. Our Drona and Acharya is a teacher, and it's teaching both Pandavas and Kauravas. Now, Aswathama is a latent desire. So, Dronacharya's son, Dronacharya is what is obvious to us. Like, we can see who you are and what your habits are. These things are automatic for you. Those things are obvious to us.
Yeah.
Now, there is something going on behind that, which is basically subconscious mind, where things are not visible. Like, they are latent.
Oh, okay.
And that is running the obvious part is being run by the subconscious part.
Okay.
So, when you see in the Mahabharata later on, you will see that Dronacharya cannot be killed till Aswathama is killed, or he thinks Aswathama has been killed.
Yeah.
And that is why the subconscious mind, those patterns, or whatever we have in that mind, they have to be cleared for us to clear from the obvious patterns, for Arjuna to win, for us to be able to be free from our patterns that we have learned from this outside world.
Okay.
So that's why they are all the way they have been pictured, that Aswathama is son of Dronacharya. One is latent and one is the obvious teacher, that obvious habits that we have.
Okay. What? Why does he have a gem in his forehead? Have you had the?
Which one?
I've seen Ashwatthama has a gem in the middle of his forehead. Do you know anything about that at all?
Yeah. There's a story about Aswathama where I think he was fighting, and then Krishna actually, when he's about to lose his life, then they give him that gem. What symbolically what they are saying is that this subconscious mind is actually very powerful. It's not we think just because he's son of Dronacharya, so he's a warrior, not a big one, but subconscious mind actually is more powerful than the conscious mind. So what we see consciously, maybe 10%. I don't know the number, but 5-10% range. And then what is going on behind the scene is 80, 90, maybe 99%. Things which we don't know that is happening. So that's why he has that gem, meaning it's all powerful thing. He's not just a small warrior. He's really carries a lot of power.
Ashwatthama does horrific things towards the end of the Mahabharata, and so
looking forward to that.
Yeah, and so the idea that he represents the subconscious is
because it's a powerful thing.
And I mean that's scary.
It is because it doesn't want to die. See, none of us wants to die. Okay, and even though being eternal, it looks interesting, but for body doesn't want to die. It's designed in a way that our fear of dying is huge. And our subconscious mind is designed to protect the body and mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't care about happiness. It does to some extent, but not at the cost of survival.
Yeah.
And so that is why they do it, body and attachment to the body. All of that things are done. They do a lot of things in the story just to show that Kauravas are really not a small things to deal with, right? The entire life we are dealing with attachment to the body and ego and identity and desires, latent desires, blind desires. You name them and they are there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next time we do this, I'll give you the whole Kaurava list and we'll go through each of their names.
Oh,
what do they mean?
I'm curious to know. They are not all of them are interesting because they all do the same thing. If you really look at it from Duryodhana all the way, except Yuvaso.
And Dusasana.
Dusasana is also doing the same thing that Duryodhana wants to do, right? It's just an anger, more unruly. It doesn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
So in our ego, when we don't follow rules, we get angry and we will take action to fulfill the command of the mind and Duryodhana, right? So if I want something, I'm taking action, not worrying about the rules and the society. Taking action with anger. That is Dusasana. And it is still on the Kaurava side.
And Yuyutsu is the son that Dhritarashtra had with a maid. right?
Yeah, and he gives up and in the battle, when the battle has happened,
Yeah.
he's the only one who fights from the other side.
Right, because even in the beginning, he's the one who actually, the stories I've read, like, he's the one who kind of slips information to the Pandavas when they're trying to kill the Pandavas.
He's a double agent.
Yeah, like he says he's with the Kauravas, but he helps the Pandavas.
Yeah, so we do have a bit in us, even on the bad side, we call it. But in spirituality, there's no good and bad, because you need both for the world to exist.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no existence. So also is our desire to give up the psychological battle. Okay. So we want to fight, right? We have this desire to fight the war to survive.
Yeah.
Then we also have a desire to give that up and saying, okay, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm just too tired, or it's too much, or I repeat the same story every day and it's too much.
Yeah.
So that power within us, or that part of the Kauravas, says, oh, this is enough. So that's why in the battle, he's going to fight from the Pandavas, because it knows that my true nature is being eternal, is much more valuable than just trying to keep this attachment to the world. And if you're attached to the world, then no matter what, it has suffering built into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need more jujutsus currently in politics.
Or just the world in general.
Or maybe just having awareness that hey, who we are is all of us are children of God, right? And if that is the case, then everyone is just part of you.
Yeah.
Then you will not hurt anybody, right? If you and I are the same, then I won't hurt myself.
Right.
So if they can even get an awareness here that Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all of us are one one being, just manifesting in different ways. But that is not the design, because nature's design is to keep the ignorance, because whenever there's a awareness, then things disappear, because we all become one. So nature says, no, you are separate. You know, me versus them, and it keeps fighting.
Yeah, but no, I mean, and that's like one of the things that just the othering that is happening in the world right now, like the other side.
Truly so, yeah.
We don't relate to them because they're just the others. So
yeah,
this has been fantastic. I think we've got this
is crazy.
Yeah,
it's so good.
We didn't get anywhere close to what I wanted to talk about. Because we just stayed in the beginning, and we hope to have you back. I mean, there's enough here. So
yeah, and I think I just want to add one more thing that we didn't talk yet, but you will see that I think you already covered the game of dice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's one important part in the story is when Pandavas reach I will say at the bottom of their powers, they lose their kingdom.
Let me preface that because I'm also curious about this. But this is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing, let's do it.
Yeah, I had a little, I was angry at Yudhishthira, and then talked with you one time before. And then also just seeing, for me, what was interesting about Yudhishthira is that, so oldest of the Pandavas, and he doesn't necessarily want to be emperor, but everyone's saying it's something he should do. He's told that for his father to get to heavens, he needs to do this. So, the interesting thing to me is that Yudhishthira may not have. It happened so fast.
He's reluctant.
He becomes king so fast. So even as just from the story and character perspective, how okay, you've got this guy who's handed everything by all the forces in the world, all the universe, and then loses it all, and it all happens within within a couple of days.
It goes very fast.
And I feel initially I was very angry, but then I'm like, I mean, you put him up on the highest pedestal.
Yeah. Just started kicking
so
the bottom
fast,
of it till he fell off.
That I have some sympathy for him. But the game of dice, which is he loses everything. Everyone knows he's losing everything.
They want to watch it happen.
And as you said, it's the Pandavas lowest point. They're all following
point
him
in their life. Yeah, it is. And so what you said, I think I don't want to repeat it because that's exactly it happened. But the reason it is happening is because what we forget is that's what has happening to us too. So what has happened is, the king loses his power, his kingdom, his brothers, his wife.
Yep.
And then he has to go to jungle and then remain, unknown. What do you call it, for
For the 13th year,
Yeah, for the 13th year, one more year, right?
Yeah.
So all of that, if you look at our life, what has happened is we also have been we playing that game with the nature. There is a delusion. So remember this Sakuni who throws a dice, right?
Yeah.
So the nature has thrown a dice on us, and it's a delusion which says that what is there in the nature, what is outside of us, is really the real kingdom. That what is there is true.
Okay.
Yudhishthira got kingdom of this thing for a short time.
Yeah.
So he's still not developed yet with his full powers, right? So that is our state. You and I and you and I, we all are in the state where the outside world looks true to us, the way it looks, and we don't see Sakuni, we don't see Duryodhana. We think, oh, who we are in this world is the truth.
Yeah.
So that is our and lowest
And
point.
nothing can take it away.
And nothing can take it away, right?
Yeah.
And the reason it's lowest point is because you and I have forgotten that who we are is a divine, right? So that is his kingdom. Loss of kingdom is not the physical kingdom he lost, but we losing our true nature, right? If I live a life like I'm not good enough, versus knowing that who I am is, all being, powerful being, or who I am a child of God, whatever your belief is, right?
Yeah.
Or who I am is really free to be, free to act. If I'm from that belief, if I go to this world of survival, so that itself is a loss. So we can feel empathy for Pandavas, but more than that, what Vyas wants us to feel is empathy for ourselves. Say, hey, we have got tricked by Sakuni, just like Pandavas. That nature is tricking us, believing that what is here in this nature is what really is. And we don't believe the other part that, oh, you are divine. And it looks like, oh, it's good, good for you. But we don't believe it. Jesus came and said, hey, you are a child of God or you are son of God, right? We say, oh, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
But in reality, I have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is a delusion. So Sakuni is very powerful. The delusion is, I forgot my nature and I forgot that I forgot. And that is why we are playing that game all the time and we are losing it. Not only we are losing kingdom, but we are also losing our powers. Like Pandavas are the 5 chakras within us.
Right.
So we lost their power. Now Draupadi is that energy within us which can remind us our divine nature, which can make us experience our divine nature. Even she gets dethroned and she got derobbed, right? So our anger, our desires, our attachment to the materialistic world is doing that. We're losing our powers. So we can feel sympathy for Draupadi in the scripture, but we have to also feel our own loss of power. We are getting derobbed or unrobbed, whatever you call it, by the nature, with the delusion of the nature or attachment of it. If we can somehow become aware of it and we can get our power back, and then for that what you have to do is you have to go for tapas for 12 years. They are going to do meditation, they are going to practice meditation. Then 13th year they have to be in samadhi. In samadhi you are not found, meaning you will be totally in a deep meditation where outside things don't bother you. Now you are ready for the battle of Mahabharata, meaning you can fight all these desires that we have created, attachments, and now you can be free from it.
Okay.
So Game of Dice just shows us that, hey, we have been tricked into believing that who we are is what we see as identity, and who can be is our divine nature. That's why I love this Game of Dice, because it shows us, hey, that is your bottom point, and from here all you can do is go up.
And I know like there's a lot of humility lessons that happen when they're in the forests. For each of them. Listeners. So just the Pandavas are, symbolic in a way of the 5 chakras, of like from the root chakra up to the throat chakra, and then Draupadi is the Kundalini that connects them all.
Connect all 5 of them.
That connects all 5.
And then Krishna is on our third eye. That is our intuition that guides Arjuna here. That, hey, how you can meditate and how you can be inner warrior. Where you can take the energy from the lower chakra to higher chakra. And when it can go all the way to your 7th and 8th chakra, then you realize your eternity. You realize that who you are is actually one with everything.
Is there a character to signify the 7th and 8th chakra at all?
Which one?
The 7th and 8th chakra.
7th and 8th are it's like a universe itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when Krishna is there, so up to Krishna there's a manifestation. Like
Right.
Krishna is
Krishna's
there.
the third eye chakra. Yeah.
Yeah. And after Sahasrara they call it. It's like a Vishnu, where it's not in Mahabharata.
Yeah.
It's basically one and it's everything and nothing.
Okay.
So that's where the games either you can say ends or that's where the game begins in a way because that is our true nature when you
Okay.
become one with everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Listeners, please
This is so good.
do let us know how this episode was. It's a different episode for us.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to editing this episode and re-listening to this and understanding more of it. 'Cause
Re-listening and re-listening
yeah,
and re-listening.
yeah,
Because that's what we should do.
yeah.
And every episode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, put our numbers up. No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is fantastic, Shambhu. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you
you.
for having me, and it was a pleasure, having this discussion with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
So fun.
On that note, listeners, have an imaginative day. I feel like it'll be easier to do after all this. So yeah, have an imaginative day, listeners. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Not Your Mother's Mahabharata. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss our next episode. My name is Satish and Azure, and I am your storyteller and researcher. My wife and co-host is Azure Anderson. Azure also wrote the theme music, she did all the editing and producing, and essentially did all the work to get this podcast to you. Without her, it would just be me swearing ancient stories to friends in our living room.
If you want to support the podcast and hear additional content, you can do so by becoming a member of the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/NYMM podcast.
We would like to thank our current patrons for their support. Errol the Hamster, Dinosaur Sauce, Praveen Prem Kumar, and Mitchell Kusek.
Have an imaginative day.